Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Kirsting hanging out here with Comcast to bring you our Summer of 50 Pittsburgh tech stories. I'm going to tell everyone right now, they're going to have to strap on their seatbelts because I'm talking to someone who brings it all the time. I've never known a time when Taylor Ford has not brought it, and she always brings it because she's one of Pittsburgh's coolest people without a doubt. She's very inspiring. She's full of energy. She's been on Tech Vibe Radio a few times, and every time I talk to her, I'm like, man, Taylor, she's just got it going on, man. She's got to come back. And anytime I have a chance to interview you, Taylor, I'm like, let's do it. And when this series come up, I'm like, Taylor's got to be on the show. So Taylor,
thank you.
From I.T's for me, good to see you again. How's it going?
Good to see you again. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so glad to talk to you. And before we hit the record button, you're telling me that you're doing well and you're super swamped, obviously, because you are like an IT goddess, right?
Right.
So give us a quick little pitch about the company. You know, IT's for me. I mean, you had your own. You've always had multiple gigs going on. Then you decide you're going to do your own thing. That's why I think you're so inspiring, because like no one can hold you down to one thing.
Right. It doesn't. No one does well trying to do that. Just put it that way. No, we are an IT and managed service and digital media marketing company. Mm-hmm. What we do is we provide IT consultation as one of our legs. That's actually a lot of what we're doing right now, because being in this virtual environment, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And now it does matter. We have a lot of people who are needing to buy a ton of laptops because they purchased, work desktops for their employees, and now they're going home. So they're doing repurchasing, and even purchasing a large amount of software, of hardware is just a lot for any company. I mean, from the purchasing of it to picking the device, to handing out the device, to, the inventory tracking, like all of that is a whole thing for businesses.
It's crazy, so, and that's why they need you. Because
it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. They didn't realize. A lot of people just really didn't realize when COVID hit, it was hard for the businesses. It was kind of like an abrupt halt. It wasn't something that was done in phases. It wasn't something where they were, they had time. It was kind of just like, you're done, and like at one fell swoop. So what was nice about our company was our current clientele, we actually were preparing them for this long before.
Really?
Because we support virtual environments. So our business is virtual. We have multiple offices. However, my office essentially follows me really wherever I go.
That's right.
So we help companies kind of adapt this idea, because there's security that's behind that. So my information can't just walk with me everywhere, right? And there's no security behind it. So, a lot of them thought like, okay, we'll just get people laptops with their information on it, and it's no problem.
Yeah, right.
That's not the case. So we help them understand way early on, we preach we're proactive. So we don't like to be reactive in any case, because it just leaves for mistakes. It leaves you rushed, you're pressured, they're pressured, we're pressured. It never works well.
Exactly.
So we try to prepare our clientele. If you have, let's say you have 10 desktops, we try to encourage you to get at least 2 laptops just in case something happens. Yeah, just a backup, just trying to even get them to understand that you can back up.
I think people are starting to believe that a lot more now than ever. Huh?
Right. Now they're getting it. Especially the ones that lost. We had a lot of clientele who didn't do that. So they decided they were going to keep all of their information at the office. It's safe, it's protected. Well, we had to literally transition them to an entire virtual environment. And that was fun.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
That was fun. Very fun.
You've not had much sleep in the past 4 months. That's for sure.
No.
I'm assuming you got your first call a few days in, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness. Because it's one of these things where it's not like when it first happened, but that you were busy. But now people are trying to figure out how they're going to go back to work. They have new plans about going back to work, so they have to keep reconfiguring their systems or think about new ways to do things based on what they think is going to happen. And it's just ongoing for you, right?
It's very much so an ongoing thing. It's changing by the day. You have different regulations now. There's regulations for certain people that can be in the office. So we're looking at different bandwidth. What we did a lot of was home consultations, which was really surprising.
Okay.
For employees that were going home, they were home. their husbands are home, their children are home, their TVs are all on. So everybody's using this Wi-Fi bandwidth. Everybody's on the same network. And it just, some of them just weren't fast enough. So the mom who needed to use the network for her work computer, it was boggled down by all of these other devices. So we had a lot of employees like, our internet's not fast enough. So we did consultations where we just, worked with Comcast actually, and we talked with them.
That's awesome.
And we came
I'm glad you talked
we
Comcast.
did a lot.
They're my people.
Yes, Comcast, they're my people too. I always use Comcast for everything as far as like the internet connectivity. I use Comcast myself at home. I'm an Xfinity user. We have Comcast Business for us as well. So a lot of my Comcast customers were, calling me to ask, what do we do? How do we do it? So it was like kind of playing two devils. I was doing the IT consultations, getting the client set up. And then I was also interfacing with Xfinity and Comcast in order to make sure that everybody had the proper solution, the proper speed, the proper password. It was a lot.
Oh my god!
When everybody went down, I kind of turned up. Like it was very opposite for me.
This is why I told everyone to strap on their seatbelts. So I told them it could be a bumpy
ride.
It could be a bumpy ride. Well, it's interesting because our previous episode of our summer stories, I was talking to Tony Murphy at Comcast. I don't know if you know Tony or not, but Tony's like another one of my favorite people. Like she's cool. And when she was telling me just how Comcast had to step up to provide the bandwidth and the engineering that was going on behind that to maintain this seamless thing, because everyone takes their IT for granted. They think their email's just going to turn on, their laptop's just going to have their spreadsheets in front of them, and they realize, no, it takes smart women like you to make sure those things work. It takes smart engineers to make sure the network's working. So there's all this stuff going on to make that go on.
Exactly.
I find it crazy. And that's why I'm glad you're around doing what you do, because like I think so many of us would be in so much trouble if we didn't have a really tight IT service. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And I've always liked your approach to it as well too. Because I remember when you first started the company up, it's like you're trying to make it simplified and not scary and understandable for people, which I think is a huge deal. Like it's not threatening when you start talking about stuff.
No. We try to make it
so folks like me can understand, right?
Right, exactly. That's why it's called IT's for me. If you think about anything where it's for me, it's typically taking something that's hard and making it for you. And that for you can be anybody. That can be a child. My son's 4. And IT's for him because he works on his iPad, he draws his notes with an Apple Pencil, and he thinks he's doing really great. And then we have IT for my grandmother. She owns 2 daycares. We have her set up with all her iPads, all her computers, all her printers. So we try to make it, very easy for anyone to understand. We try to help people understand that technology is something that can be seamlessly integrated into your life as long as you understand how to use it and what its purpose is supposed to be.
That's the big part, because one of the things we've been talking about a lot in this series has been bridging the digital divide. And some of that is to be comfortable with technology and to be able to understand it. I mean, first there's the access to it, which we're all trying to work on to make sure that like students have the right laptops and the right connectivity so they can continue to learn. But then actually being able to use this stuff and not be afraid of it.
Right.
So you talk about your grandmother and your kids. There's a 2 ends of these spectrums here where you're like, these are folks that need a little more help sometimes. And to make it understandable just means now they can start using it, and now they're empowered in order to connect whatever they want to connect.
Exactly. That's our 4 pillars. It's education, and then we have integrity, and we have empowerment and value. And simply put, whenever you go to Best Buy, whenever you go to a bigger technology store and you go to buy a computer, their game is not really to help you buy the device that you actually need. Typically, it's to get you to find something that you may still need help with. So you're going to come back. You're going to just keep coming back, and you're going to pay Geek Squad, or you're going to pay them to ask your question. You're going to keep coming back to spend more money. That's not our gig. We do all deals with integrity.
Geek Squad, right?
Yeah, exactly. We don't want you to have to keep using us like the Geek Squad. We want to educate you. So when you get a device with us, it's about integrity. We're honest. We're not going to make any money off of you off of this device. You either need it or you don't. And we're open and transparent with our people. We educate them on everything. After they're educated, now they're using these devices to its fullest capability, which means you're going to feel empowered in whatever situation they're in using that device. They're able to provide value. So that's what the 4 actually in IT, for me, it's the 4 core values that we hold.
I learned something new today. I just thought you were being clever with the numeral 4, but it actually...
No, it's our 4 values.
I like it. That's awesome. That's super cool.
Thank you.
So what's your sweet spot for customer size?
Honestly, we like small to medium-sized businesses.
Okay.
What we find is bigger businesses have bigger IT companies and they're robust, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the economy is actually powered from small businesses.
Of course.
And we're like the misfits. It's funny. We're always overlooked. We're always like, oh, but they don't have enough computers, they don't make enough digital stain. If you have enough small businesses, you actually have more devices, more bandwidth, more security that's needed than a bigger business. Right. Small businesses are much more of a target for hacking, for intrusions, because you're smaller. You're not thinking, you think you're not a target because you're small. And if you're small in size, but you're doing $1 million in revenue, you're still very much so a target. You're just small in your eyes. So we try to empower our clients with that as well. Like a lot of them, we're small businesses, we don't matter. You matter just as much of a big business, if not more. Exactly. Because you're small, and small typically provides good quality, which is why we like to stay small. We keep our unit pretty close, so every client gets that touch of a feel. You can call anyone on my team and they're just as knowledgeable about what's going on in your technological environment as anyone.
Absolutely. So let's change gears a little bit. You've told me the story before, but I think some of our listeners and viewers probably have not heard this. So what got you inspired and got you like hooked on tech? I always like people's stories about what got them interested in what they do. And I think you got a cool story around that.
Well, mine actually started out, so when I was a little girl, I've always been into IT. I've always been into devices, right? And more specifically phones. So my mom would not allow me to she just wouldn't just buy me a phone because she felt like I wouldn't receive any value out of that.
Okay.
So I wanted to start buying my phones, and I had to figure out a way in order to get my money to do it. So my Uncle Bobby was in the NFL, and I told him at the age of 10, if you buy me a computer, I'll put the whole thing together and I'll start my own business to buy my own phone.
Oh, I love it.
He thought I was a joke.
That's so cool.
He did. He thought I was a joke. He was playing for the Seattle Seahawks at the time, and he was like, she's not going to do that. So as a joke, he really went out and bought it. I mean, it wasn't, he was an NFL player. So at the time, a computer wasn't, anything. So they left and they went and they were doing what they were doing and left me home.
Okay.
And when I went to actually build this computer, they came home, the computer was set up. I called Windstream, and back then it was Windstream, and I had our internet set up, and I had my Sims game on. I was playing my game on the computer, and they were just floored, that this little girl really went and did that. So after that, I said, okay, now I want you to talk to your player friends, because that's when the big old iPods were out, the big classic, back in the day.
The dial on the front, right?
Remember the dial? Okay, those. So players didn't know how to use them. I used to call them dumb jocks. You guys have all this money, but you literally don't know how to use your iPods. That's crazy.
Taylor's going to show.
It was great. So I was like, okay, send me all your iPods. And then I would load up their music and then send it back to them. So I would get paid for my little, loading up of the iPod, and then I would tell them how to use it. But I was 10, 11, doing this. And my family was floored because it really did work. It worked. So that was when I first knew my love. And then when they saw me helping the players, they saw me set the computer up, I actually then turned into my family tech person at 10, 11 years old. So they were it was disturbing a little for them to be asking me, but I knew. And then as we grew up, I really became a tech person. So no one was allowed to go to Best Buy. You weren't allowed to go to any phone company unless I was there, because I would have to pick up the pieces. They would go to these stores, they would buy these devices and come home I don't know why I have this, and I don't know. And I was like, I'm not doing this, because I have to do the rep's job by fixing the phone and telling you how to use it. So I said, you know what? I'm going into business because everybody needs these skills, and I'm tired of walking around each family member giving special classes. So I went into business to help everybody, and it's actually been quite successful. I'm very proud of it, honestly.
I think that's such a freaking cool story, man. I just think you're consulting at the age of 12. No, you don't buy this, because when I set that up, it's going to mess up. So you're buying this and this.
Exactly. And I would be a little commander in the Verizon store, and they'd be this little girl. And I was no, he knows. He knows. I know what he needs. Just back it up. Just give him this device. I'm still that way. Like phone stores to this day know when she comes in, we're not going to sell her anything. She's probably going to sell us. Like
They're
that's
like,
what's going to
step
happen.
back. Exactly. They're like,
Yeah, just let her go and do her thing.
absolutely. So then how did you carry that momentum through going to college and then like getting out and being like, you work for some companies and decide you're going to start your own thing again? Like, how'd that work?
Well, you know what? That was a crazy story. So I actually went to school for chemical engineering.
Right.
I did not go for anything that had anything to do with IT. It was simply because I was always good at math. I was always good at chemistry. I graduated from Oakland Catholic with honors, and my sister had sickle cell. So I wanted to get my chemical engineering degree so that when I graduated, I would be able to research sickle cell to find a cure for her. That was what it was at its root was.
Okay, yeah.
And so I went to school for chemical engineering. And when I came out in 2014, I had my son. So I decided, I went right into the workforce, and it was that catch-22 where either I was too qualified, meaning that I wasn't going to want to stay because I felt like the job was beneath me, or I was overqualified. Like, okay, you're either under or you're over. I didn't have enough experience, or I had too much experience where they wouldn't think I would want to stay. So I dealt with that for a couple months. And IT was always like my heart. Like I was still always doing IT stuff. Even in college, I had IT jobs. I never had a chemical job, which was funny because everybody else did. And I was tired of doing chemicals. Like I wanted to play with the computers. So that's what I actually had my experience. It was in, but that's not what my degree was. So I went and I became an IT. First, I was just like an IT help person at Weavertown. And then within 3 years, I grew to be the IT director, project manager. Yeah. And I was the first African-American woman there to ever hold that title.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I was like super excited, very honored. And after a while, I actually had a third-party provider when I was there. They did exactly what I'm doing now, but they would make it difficult. They would charge me a lot of money for things that weren't getting done. Like they would come in on 2 days out of the week and spend 3 hours there, and then they would leave, and there'd be all these problems that I still had to fix. So after a while, I was like, well, nothing's really happening. And then I would ask questions like, what's wrong with the phone? And they would say, oh, the telecommunicator is not working, to my boss. And I'm like, my boss is now thinking that we had this whole telecommunication system, and it was just a phone. So I was like, you need to be speaking in terms that people can understand, because you're causing unnecessary stress and you're charging exorbitant fees for larger words. So I realized I'm just going to go into business to help businesses. I'm not going to go into business to make money off of you. That's essentially what happens. They go into business and they do want to help you, but a lot of the times they still have the profit. It's a profit-driven mindset. And I am a people-driven mindset. We want to help you as a person. That's what I was doing as an IT director. I was saving my company money. I was going through big contracts, like with Comcast, for example. We did a huge contract with Comcast. That was the biggest one that my company had done ever. And so we went, and I was doing those different types of things. And I realized what I'm doing for one company, I could literally replicate myself and do for multiples. And, it'll help everybody. You don't know what you don't know. And I make it my business to make sure that you know, so that you're educated, so you can make, the right decisions for your business.
Such a cool story all the way around. I'm so glad
Thank you.
Because I can tell it's your passion, it is your jam, without a doubt. And that's why I'm so glad I get to talk to you and give our listeners and our viewers a little sliver of what you're all about. Like I told everybody, what a fun ride. And I wish you continued success doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
And this is why I'm having such a great time this summer telling some of these 50 stories with Comcast, because you're out there inspiring a lot of people, Taylor. And we need like 100 more of you in Pittsburgh. We need 200 more of you in Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm trying.
No pressure. Keep up the good work. Great talking with you.
Oh, of course.